Hello guys, so the update is here. We have the new shards, the new demon soldiers and some other stuff. But what do we care about this time? The exclusive lucky pick. For those of you guys who don't know, this is like a limited banner when you can just pick whoever limited you want, except Moradin, the last one we got. And in this video I want to share my thoughts on which limited you should pick based on your account. But first, let's go through all the limiteds we've had so far, so we can see. Let me go through them. I might skip someone in case I don't see it. But we have Falcia, we have, let's see, what else do we have? We have Last, we have Kigiri, we have Wukong, then we have Captain Reef, which is really nice. I really like him. I like him quite a lot. Then as marksman we have, no marksman was limited, nope. As I've said, I might skip someone just because I'm looking at this like in a fast way. Then we have Anora, and as a healer we've had Diaochan, we also had Gwendolyn, and pretty much it. But which champ should you pick? Well, pretty simple. If you have just started, let's say today, and you somehow managed to get 200, you should always go with Wukong. If you don't have any of the limiteds and you're just starting and you're trying to build up your roster, your champs, Wukong is the way to go. Now, A1 Wukong is a pretty good A0 Wukong is a pretty nice champ. It's not like game breaking, but once he gets to A3 and A5, and you will get some free and polished soulstone based on the quest that you get early on, then clearing your dungeon and some other stuff, you can take him to A3 pretty easily, and it will carry your account really badly. But now, the most important question: what are you guys going to pick if you have Wukong, but you don't have Diaochan, or you have A0 Kigiri, A1 Kigiri, A2 Kigiri? Well, if you already have Wukong, and you have Kigiri, or you have any other limited, but you don't have Diaochan, you should always go for Diaochan. I see a lot of people lately saying, well, I don't have Diaochan, but I'm going to get Kigiri A3, but I'm going to get Kigiri A5. Well, the reality is, if you have Kigiri A5, but you don't have Diaochan, Kigiri is not as useful. And let's be honest, if you want Kigiri A5, it will most likely be for Abyss, because if you are talking about Semra, like Titanic Ruins, you won't really need A5 Kigiri. You can just get 120k using A5 Wukong, like it's not a huge deal. So, if you are thinking about having A5 Kigiri, ideally it would be for Abyss 60k or 35k. And the reality is, you will get more damage in Abyss having an A3 Kigiri with A0 Diaochan than having an A5 Kigiri with no Diaochan. Diaochan is pretty much the most important limited we have in the game. It's just that the only exception being super early game players, because if they have no chance to boost with Diaochan, it just will be totally useless. That's why I've said before that if you're a super early game player, you should first get Wukong and then go into Diaochan. But yeah, you should never pick Kigiri if you don't have Diaochan. That's my thought, because in the end you will lose maybe like 40 to 30 to 50% damage from your Kigiri. So you are in the end using an A5 Kigiri and maybe doing 100k damage, which is less than an A3 Kigiri. For example, my Kigiri does 180k at A3, and this is mainly because he's getting the penetration from Diaochan, because if he didn't have Diaochan, he would be pretty much useless. So, in my opinion, if you don't have Diaochan, you should always go for Diaochan. Now, let's assume you have Diaochan, you have A0 Diaochan, you have already A5 Wukong, or maybe an A3 Wukong, and then you are there thinking, should I pick Diaochan if I have her A0, or should I pick Kigiri? Well, if you have A0 Diaochan, I would actually go for at least a3 Kigiri. a5 will be ideal. a5 is when Kigiri just becomes game breaking, but to be fair, a0 Diaochan or even a1 is pretty big for the awakening. For the awakening, I mean for the range, for the extra range on his inspiration, but you don't really need it. Diaochan will work at a0, Diaochan gets good at a1, and then a3 is her best awakening because she grants penetration to one more ally. However, if you have a0 Diaochan or a1, I would go for Kigiri a3 or Kigiri a5. Now, for those of you guys who already have a3 Kigiri, have the a1 Diaochan, I think it is more important to get a3 Diaochan than a5 Kigiri. This might sound weird, but in the end, being totally honest, you use Diaochan way more than you use Kigiri. Kigiri is in fact not that easy to use because in super hard content, I'm not talking about bosses, let's say in the event or in some content from campaigns, you need him to get hit in order for him to proc the counter attack. But most of that hard content will have mobs that will most likely one-shot your Kigiri. So in the end, Kigiri is not as useful as he might seem. He's insane for all the boss content if you can keep him alive, but Diaochan is just game breaking. Diaochan is arguably the best limited we ever had, and I would 100% go for Diaochan. In case you already have a3 Kigiri, I would go for a3 Diaochan. Now, one more limited that I think is pretty nice and people tend to forget about him is Captain Reef. Captain Reef is not only good in some GBG maps, he has crazy awakenings, his awakenings are insane, and also he's really useful in the new Malric rooms, because on some of the rooms you cannot block enemies, they have like a bonus where they get 50% extra speed or some kind of modifiers that make Reef shine really. Because this is a perma slow with a stance, and then you can see his awakening is just insane awakenings, more slow, increased duration of the ultimate, AoE and stun. He's just crazy. So in case you have a3 Kigiri, a3 Wukong, or maybe a5, let's say, because in the end, if you don't have a5 Wukong or a5 Kigiri, you won't go for Reef. You want to get like the big, in my opinion, the most important limiters right now in the game are Wukong first, talking full awakenings, Wukong a5, Kigiri a5, and Diao a3. Once you have all those three, if you are really into GBG, you should go for Anora a5, and if you already have Anora a5, then you should go for Reef in my opinion. For example, let's say my account. Right now, I have a5 Wukong, right here. I have a3 Diaochan, a5 Anora, because Anora is insane for GBG, she's a must-have a5 if you are into GBG. And then I have a3 Kigiri. So you pretty much see the order that I have followed on my account, and the order that I would recommend people to follow. If you're into GBG, Anora is important. If not, Wukong a5, Diaochan a1, then Kigiri a3, then Kigiri a5, then Anora a5. That's the order I would go for an endgame account. And as said, if you're an early game account, Wukong first, Diaochan second, and then go for Kigiri. You don't really want Kigiri a5 or Kigiri a3 if you don't have Diaochan. He will be totally useless. Not totally useless, you know, but he won't be as good, and he won't boost your damage in bosses as much as getting Diaochan. So yeah, that's pretty much the way I would go. In my case, I will go for Kigiri because it's arguably one of the only limiters I don't have a5 that I need, because of course I could get a5 Reef, I could get a5 Gwendolyn, but I'm not gonna really use them as much as an a5 Kigiri based on my account. So yeah, just let me know in the comments what you're going to do, and I will try to answer most of you guys. So yeah, I'll see you in another one, guys. Has been a pleasure. Bye.